Welcome to Life, Lessons, and Laughter with your host, Glenn Ambrose.
Hey everybody, what's happening? Welcome to the show. The show. The show. It sounds like I'm performing. So yeah, today I decided to talk about I made a couple posts, and they kind of both had the same theme. It's about living your life your way. And I think, now's the time, man. That there's so much messed up in the world, and we're getting so much clarity on how messed up things are, and that a lot of the ways we just kind of went about our lives because they were socially acceptable, a lot of them don't really make sense. And the security we thought we had, like, I'll get a stable, secure job and then I won't have to stress out for the rest of my life. And we're finding out that that isn't true. COVID can come in and change everything. And, so there's a lot of change. And when there's a lot of change, it's an opportunity to choose how you want to live. And, so like one of the posts, I'll just kind of touch on the two posts that I had. One of the posts that says the tiger and the lion may be more powerful, but the wolf does not perform in the circus. Right. So like it's not, sometimes we look at societal standards or society, like the government, for example, or the way things are done in society. And we go, oh, that's much more powerful. Like I can't just go against the tide. And we can go against the tide. Like that, that's the point. Like we can go against the tide just because something, like from an external perspective, we can look at the government and say, okay, well, the government's more powerful than I am, because they have, an army and all this stuff. And it's like, well, yeah, in that perspective, they are, but that's not, that's not what we're dealing with. We can still choose to live our way. We don't have we don't have to run around breaking laws, and we can still choose to live our way. And when there's so much up in the air and so many people are changing, going into second professions, and it's coming up, man. People are already doing this. So like I kind of flashed to my childhood, well, like teen years or whatever, my younger life, because as dysfunctional as I was back then, I lived with a lot of freedom, because I didn't have fear of consequences. So I just did whatever I wanted. Now, there's good and bad to that. And, I'm going to try to focus on the good aspects of it. I wasn't doing it consciously. I didn't know what I was doing or why I was doing it. And most of it was out of a frustration, rebellious, screw you energy. So, that's a frustration energy. So there's negative consequences when you're functioning from a frustration energy, which I experienced a lot of those when I was younger. But I didn't mind, because to me, living free was the most important thing. Like I just couldn't drink the Kool-Aid of society. I wanted to very badly. I literally tried to drink the Kool-Aid when I was a kid. I tried to behave. I tried to sit in school for years. I would try to behave myself. I didn't want to be a pain in the ass student all the time. But by the time I hit like 7th grade year, it became very obvious that I was incapable of being who they wanted me to be. I could not sit still in class. I could not stay focused on what they were teaching. I was just physically incapable of doing that. So what they did is I'm a problem. So they just sent me to the office, So then, your self-esteem takes blows. So finally I just said, the heck with it. I'm in trouble all the time anyway. Why don't I just go do what I want? And it was a tremendous amount of freedom when I did that. Because I was like, my life's not going to change. I'm always grounded. I'm always in trouble. I'm always sent to the office. Why don't I just do whatever I want? And my life I'm already experiencing all the punishments as if I was doing all the bad stuff anyway. Why don't I just go have some fun? And like I said, that's not that's not a way to go through life with that type of reasoning. But it did allow me to experience a high level of freedom. At a young age, I literally did whatever I wanted, whenever I wanted, however I wanted. And then, it pushed me into creativity because I started looking at how systems worked so I could get what I wanted. And I didn't care who I pissed off. I didn't care who I lied to. I didn't care what they thought of me. They already thought bad of me. So, which leads me to my other post. The other post was like, once you ruin your reputation, you can live freely, or something along those lines. And that's basically what it was. I ruined my reputation. Like I didn't care what anybody thought of me. That I was a loser, troublemaker, problem student, child anyway. Like when I was trying to be good, I was that. I was already labeled that. I was already being treated like that. So once I discovered to just do whatever I wanted, it was like, oh really, you think I'm bad? No kidding, I am. I thought I was bad. So I had complete freedom. And when I look back on that, it's this was really a big insight that I got at some point. I don't know what it was, 15 years ago, 20 years ago, 10 years ago, somewhere in my spiritual journey, I had opened enough and understood enough about myself and the dynamics of the world to kind of look back on my childhood. And I was like, I wouldn't drink the Kool-Aid. I couldn't do what they wanted me to do. I couldn't do that. So I just rebelled. And I was like, and I knew that the path that I had chosen was the wrong path because there was so much suffering that occurred because of it. So I was like, but I had this sneaking suspicion that I wasn't completely wrong. I was just partially wrong. And what I realized was that the not caring what people thought, embracing my freedom, choosing to live my life my way, not going by societal standards, all that stuff was correct. That was actually good. And now that I'm older, I look at the rules that I broke and went against, and I see why they were wrong. Like to me, for a kid like me, school was a joke. It was a waste of my time. It really was. I didn't learn anything that I use in life. All it did was just lower my self-esteem and push me into alcoholism. So, don't get me wrong. I learned to read and write and stuff like that. But as a general rule, probably 75% of what I learned in school was a complete waste of time. And, after like 7th grade, I learned very little because I had decided that I wasn't interested in learning what they had to teach me. So what I would do is, fortunately, I was intelligent enough to just pass tests whenever I wanted. So I would just do nothing until I was about to fail. And then, then I'd be like, okay, what do I need to pass? Well, you need to ace the next 2 tests. Okay. So I just go ace the next 2 tests. And then I'd just pass because I always knew that I wanted to graduate high school. So I just did that. But I had no interest in learning anything for the last, about 6 years of school. Like the first 6 years I actually tried, and I got really good grades the first 6 years. But then the last 6 years I got horrible grades because I didn't care and I wasn't interested in it. So societal standards just didn't suit me. They didn't work for me. I understand that they work for some people, but they didn't work for me. And so I just went against them. So I understood that I was right to not think that societal standards were right for me, but I wasn't right about the way that I went about living my life. What I did about that fact, I wasn't, and I was a kid. How was I supposed to figure this stuff out? I didn't know. Like, I just knew I was, and I asked, even when I was a kid, I'm like, like what, this is where I am. Like, I can't fit in. What do I do? And no adults had any answers. Right. So, so I did the best that I could, and a lot of people didn't like it, but whatever. So, I grew a thick skin in a certain way, but living dysfunctionally has its price. So I paid that price with low self-esteem and with depression and suicidal tendencies and thoughts and actually actions at some points. But and alcoholism. So I went about dealing with the situation wrong, but I was right about how I was looking at the situation. You see, so my point is that we don't, we have to question everything and think outside the box and stop thinking we have to live by societal standards. We don't, and we don't have to become dysfunctional, knuckleheads to not live by societal standards. So we take it into the second phase of my life, which is the spiritual phase, the last 20 years. I still haven't lived by societal standards. All my jobs said, 3 jobs I had before I started my business said I needed to attend a mandatory meeting. At the time I was supposed to be with my son. And all 3 times I said, no, I'm not going to be there. You can fire me if you like, but I'm going to go be with my son. Now I didn't get fired from any of those jobs, but just standing up to them like that goes against societal standards. Most people cave when a boss says something like that. I just didn't. Like I wasn't overly fearful. To me, it was like I was doing a job that I didn't particularly like anyway. And then I was a drunk for 20 years and I basically always worked for the most part. I could always get a job. So I was like, if I can get a job as a drunk, I sure as heck can get a job as a sober person. I'm intelligent enough. I'm capable enough. So they didn't have the fear over me. You see, they didn't have the fear to control me. It's like the wolf. The wolf just doesn't have the fear. So it can't be controlled because it doesn't have the fear. You see, this is the point that I'm getting at. It can't be controlled because it doesn't have the fear. So you take that mentality, right? And then you look at a movement like Gandhi's movement. You can't control the Indian population. You just can't control them. So eventually, if you can't control us, you're just going to leave. And that's what they did. They left. Why? Because they couldn't control the people. Why couldn't they control them? Because there was nothing that they could do to them that was worth losing their freedom over, to walk around in their own country. And it wasn't worth it to them. They just had no fear. They were just like, no, I'm just not. So then the government lost control over them and they ended up leaving. You see? So this is what I'm talking about. This is how we can live. We have to, like, we have so much more control over our lives. We have so much more options. Like, there are so many people. I can't even count how many people talk to me about being trapped in a job. I mean, I can't even count. It's endless. I mean, I would venture to say that at least 50% of the people in developed countries feel trapped in their jobs, maybe more. It's an epidemic of people who feel that they're trapped in their jobs. And we're finally starting to get out of that because people have been pushed to a level where they're incapable of putting up with the BS any longer. It's just too much, and you see it in, especially the two fields that you see it the most in are school teachers and healthcare, because those people, most people that get into teaching or into the healthcare industries are very large-hearted people. They want to help other people. So unfortunately, a lot of big-hearted people aren't good at setting boundaries. They just want to be nice all the time. So people walk all over them and abuse them. And that's what we've seen in the healthcare industry and in the teaching community for many, many years. The teachers and the nurses and that they're getting it from every end, man. They're getting it from the teacher, from the parents, from the students, from the principal, from the superintendent, from the government. And the nurses are getting it from the doctors, the administration, all the red tape that goes. I mean, they are just literally abused, and they finally got pushed to the point where they couldn't take it anymore, and they started quitting. And most people look at that like it's a bad thing, and I'm just like, yes, finally, they've suffered enough where they've said enough is enough. I can't do this anymore, and they walked out. And it's beautiful because it's, they're really the at the forefront of this, because I think that they're being affected the most because of what I said. They were abused more than others. So, and they're big-hearted people and they can only take so much. So, so it's more obvious with them and they're at the forefront, but this has affected the whole job industry, the whole employee market. There's an employee shortage. they say that there's an employee shortage. There's no employee shortage. There's plenty of people to work these jobs. There's just a shortage of people who are allowing themselves to be abused by their job. That's what there's a shortage of. There's a shortage of people who will allow themselves to be abused at work. That's what there's a shortage of, which is beautiful. This is how the change ushers in. When we finally stand up and say, no, it's just not worth it anymore. I can't live like this anymore. I just can't live like this anymore. And people think at first glance that that's such a horrible thing. And it's the most beautiful thing. That's when you actually change. What's horrible, I have no fear of going through difficult times. I have a fear of missing my life. I have a fear of putting up with crap for 5 years, 10 years, and then waking up and looking back and realizing that I crapped away 5 or 10 years of my life, just putting up with crap. That, when I think about me doing that to myself, it gives me the willies. I'm like, I can't even handle the thought of it. I will not do that. That's unacceptable to me. What is acceptable is going through good times, bad times, because that's just life. It's going to happen. We allow this abuse because, these societal things, most of the society's standards don't make sense. you're not going to go get good grades in school and then go get good grades in college and then get the job of your dreams and then meet the right spouse and then have the right kids in the right house and live the American dream. It's not going to happen. I mean, it's going to happen for a small percentage of people, very small. And even them, a lot of them, they'll probably get sick of their jobs too. So a lot of question everything and choose what's right for you, because we can do it now. We can start businesses online. We can do whatever we want. We can travel. Like if you're in a developed country, like the United States, for example, you can basically hop on a plane and go anywhere in the world. Like I didn't realize this because I never traveled internationally, but now, I live in the Dominican Republic, and the Dominicans over here, they're like, and the Haitians on the other side, they're like, they would do anything to be able to get off of this island. They can't. Like they can't just go buy a plane ticket and go to the United States or most other places in the world. They can't just do that. You can. the people in the United States and Canada and Europe and the developed countries, like you can hop on a plane and just go visit things. There's so much out there. There's so many opportunities out there. Like we have to start letting go of the fear, because that's how they control us. We have to start understanding that the way, look at society. I know that this is so weird to me. I talk about this often. And it's, I don't know, man. I get it. I understand it. I get it. But at the same time, I've seen through this for so long that it's like as obvious and as plain as the nose on my face. So as much as I understand why it's like this, there's another part of me that goes, why don't you see it? Like, if you look at, what we think society is outside of us. We look at society and we go, oh my God. Like you talk to anybody and say, are there a lot of problems in society? They're like, oh yes, yes. And then they go, are you living your life? Are you living your best life? Are you a good person? Are you doing your best? Like living your best life and all that stuff. And they're like, oh, I'm out there trying. And then they really believe that they're trying, and they're not. They're completely out of touch with what their best life is. They're just so consumed by maintaining their life and not losing their house or something. It's it's a trap. Like the society has created a trap. Like over here in the DR, right? The average person makes like 250 to 350 US dollars a month. That's pennies. Extreme poverty over here, right? However, you can rent a room for you and your child to live for, I'm starting to think in pesos now, which is a good thing. But let's see. So for about $50 a month, so $50 a month, you can have a room. Now a room isn't good enough for most people in the United States, but a lot of people over here it is. So like, so maybe double that, $100 a month, and you could maybe, I mean, it's don't get me wrong, the standards are much different over here. It's nothing special, but it will get you by. You have a place to sleep, and we look at this and we go, oh my God, that's so horrible. These people have no options over here. They're trapped, right? And they are. I'm not saying that ain't true. It's extreme poverty over here, and it's very difficult. The United States is not much further behind. It's just that the standards are higher. So over there, the difference is over here, you stay in a room or a little shack, and you have no extra money and you're broke and you can't move forward in your life. In the United States, you have a 1-bedroom and probably some decent furniture, but you're trapped in that. You're still trapped, like, or a 2-bedroom or apartment or something, but you still have no extra money. If, most people don't have enough money to handle a $500 emergency. If it happens, they're screwed. Like they don't have $500 extra in the bank to handle an emergency that comes up. So like there's our way of living. My point is our way of living isn't working. Like it's not, we're working. It's like swimming upstream. You're just paddling and paddling and paddling and you're not getting anywhere. And then if you're not savvy enough, like to like, I was fortunate where my father taught me about money and about how the world works in a lot of ways and how the government will steal everything from you if you're not careful. So like I've always known this stuff, and it surprises me how much people don't know, but don't know that that's what happens. So it's like, if you can't just go buy a house, work, pay it off, and then, get older, start getting sick, go into a retirement home, and your kids get your house, or even you get the money from your house. No, the government will steal it. They just go, no, we're claiming that house because now we're going to use it to pay for your health care, and then the kids end up, and then the parents die, and the kids end up owing tens of thousands of dollars of taxes on the thing, and trying to figure out how to pay for funerals that they can't afford because they're in the trap too. That's what I'm saying. Like the system is so out of whack, and we have to wake up. But the reason that people aren't seeing it is because it's the frog story, the frog on the stove. It's like if, they say if you put a frog in a pot of water and on the stove and just turn up the heat gradually, it'll get hotter and hotter, and the frog won't jump out, and it'll boil to death and die. Like, but if you put a frog and drop it into boiling water, it'll jump out. So what happens is the frog's body gets used to it. And that's what's been happening to us. They've been funneling money upwards since the United States was founded. In the United States, they've been doing it. And they've been doing it all around the world too. So they've been funneling money upwards to the point where it's just getting worse and worse and worse and worse. And now we can't really swim anymore. It's like you can't handle it anymore. And people have really low quality of life. All you're doing is, most people are in debt. You're swimming upstream at a job that you hate, living in debt, and just maintaining, and stressed out all the time about money and life and how much of an asshole your boss is and all this stuff. And you call that living. It's not living. It's not living. Like, we have to understand at this point, it's really not worth it to continue playing society's game the way they have it laid out. It's just not worth it. And once you realize that, that's where your freedom comes in, because then they can't control you, because then you don't have a fear of consequences. You're like, my life sucks anyway. I'm miserable. I just pissed away the last 10 years swimming upstream, getting nowhere. And if I don't do something different, I'm going to spend the next 10 years doing it, the next 40 years doing it. And then have the government yank my house at the end of it. So everything I worked for, I lost. So now is the time. Now is the time. The change is here. So, start understanding. Look at your government and how much they lie to you. Look, why was Walmart open? If COVID spreads and we have to minimize groups of people, why was Walmart open and all the mom and pop small businesses closed? Doesn't Walmart hold many more people than the small mom and pop stores? Yes, of course they do. right? It doesn't make any sense. They're funneling money. Just Google how much money was funneled up. I think I did that once quite a while ago. It was trillions of dollars. I believe that during COVID was the largest shift of money, trillions and trillions, possibly tens of trillions or hundreds of trillions of dollars, whatever it was, that went from the middle and lower class up to the upper class. Largest transfer in wealth, I believe, in history. Like at some point, guys, you just got to be like, this is ridiculous. My life is getting harder and harder and harder. I'm stressed out all the time. I'm not living like this anymore. And when you get to that point, that's where your freedom begins. Then you go, you know what? I'm going to do what I want. And then what happens is when you align with your passion, what you really want to do, energy flows like that. That's when, see, everything is energy and it's alignment. It's not time. You don't have to spend 30 years getting good at a profession before you're good at it, or before it makes you money, or some other BS freaking societal standard that they taught you. Like, all you got to do is align with your passion and you're gone. Like, I had my own, I just started a life coaching business. I didn't know what I was doing. And I was working as a personal trainer, and 80% of my income was coming from personal training when I started my life coaching business and opened up my business. Within a year and a half, my income went from 80% personal training to 20% personal training and 80% everything else. Life coaching, all the spiritual work that I wanted to do. So I could let go of the spirit, that's in a year and a half. Whoop. Why? Because it was my passion. It was what I was supposed to be doing. You have more energy. You have more life force flowing through you when you're in alignment. It's enthusiasm energy. It's which comes from, I believe, the Greek in theos, which is in God. When you're in alignment with yourself, you're in alignment with God. And that's when your enthusiasm comes out. Enthusiasm is high energy, motivated energy. I get my son off to school in the morning and work all day, coach his soccer team in the afternoon, come home, dinner, and sitting there watching some TV with him with my laptop, just doing marketing stuff or whatever for my business. And it wasn't like, it was a lot. It was a lot, but it didn't feel like a lot at the time. I have to be honest. There were times that it was a lot in the moment. But for the most part, I was working towards something. It was worth it because I was building something that I wanted, that was in alignment with me. And I didn't have a boss. Like I know, I'm not saying everybody has to start their own business. You can go work for other companies that treat their employees better. Or maybe that's your move. But for me personally, I'm so against anybody telling me what to do in any way, shape, or form ever, that me not having a boss was completely worth that. Me being able to coach my son's soccer teams was completely worth it to me. The freedom that I got was completely worth it to me. So sitting there with a laptop at 11 o'clock at night, poking away at stuff that I was interested in, it was manageable. It wasn't easy, but it was in alignment with me. And that's what made it worth it. I wasn't doing it for somebody else. So this is what you need to do. You need to start living your life for you and stop the fear and the conditioning from these. Oh, well, you have to do this. You have to do this. You have to be logical and smart about stuff. Most of what society teaches you does not hold weight if you really dissect it. It's just simply not true. there is no such thing as a safe job. Are some jobs somewhat more stable than others? Yeah. Yeah, some of them, somewhat, but they're not stable. There are no stable jobs. There's no such thing as a stable job. And people work so hard and push so many dreams aside for stability. Stability does not exist. There's no such thing as stability. We live in an ever-changing reality. If you have $100 million in the bank, that can be gone tomorrow. Does it happen a lot? No, not really, but it can. Many people like started businesses and all this stuff and lived 20 years, 50 years, sometimes generational businesses, right? Like, so maybe you had a 3-generation business that's how your family thrived for 3 generations. And then COVID hits and you're closed out of business, done. There's no stability in that. They thought there was. 3 generations was like, yeah, it's stable. Of course it's stable. Look it. We've been fine for 3 generations. Then all of a sudden, boom. My point is, you never know. You never know because you're not in control of it. So there is no stability. We live in an ever-changing reality. Don't chase stability. Chase your dreams. Chase your freedom. You're only here for a while. I mean, don't waste it doing stuff that you don't want to do. It's okay if you fail. It's okay if you leap and you fail. You pick yourself up and do something else. At least you're doing something that feeds your soul that you want to do. So I'll wrap up with this. It's the fear that controls us, and sometimes it's societal domestication, the way we've been raised. This is why I keep saying question everything, because you're living your life, and so am I. Like I would say probably once a week, I recognize something that I just assumed, like I was just domesticated by society to believe that that's just how things are. And I catch something and I'm constantly questioning things. So probably about once a week, I just go, oh my God, because I'm always going, is that true? I'm always asking myself that. So I wish I could give you guys an example right now. I don't know. I'll try to come up with one I've used in the past as opposed to a more current one, because nothing's coming to me. But like, what I was talking about before, like, oh, if you go to school, get good grades, you go to college, and then you'll have a happy life. None of those things have anything to do with happiness, and they don't guarantee you a job that you want. And there's no truth to that. There isn't. School is good for you. No, it's not. It's not good for a lot of people. It's good for some. But the way school system is set up, it's not good for many, many, many kids. So like, and we just, what's going on with the kids? We're jamming them into a school system that doesn't serve them. Our healthcare system is a mockery. Like I just saw something today that our life expectancy is actually going down. The United States spends more money on healthcare than any other country, and our life expectancy is going down because of a model that we set up, like back in the 60s or 70s, to enhance profits. Like it's just, the way things are run are literally silly. They're not for you. The government doesn't care about you. They're not. You can't wait for them to save you or pass a law so your life gets better. Like, or you're like, most people are are like spending all their energy trying to vote for one of these two parties that both lie all the time. Like constantly, it's all they do is lie. Democrats and Republicans, it's all they do is lie. Always, all the time, lie. And people are like, yeah, but I like some of their policies better. It doesn't matter. They lie. They don't care about you. They're just trying to get power for their party. That's it. That's all they care about. And line their pockets with the money they do getting it. Like, stop putting your hope in a group of people that have shown themselves to be dishonest and not care about you countless times. Literally hundreds of thousands of times they've lied to you. Stop putting your faith in them and the systems that they represent, and start thinking outside the box and just create your own life, man. Whatever you want to do, just go do it. Create your own life. Doesn't matter what you do. I don't care if it's a freaking hobby. I just want, the whole point of this podcast is that I really love people. Like, I really love people, and I want to see people just meandering through life, acting like victims of society and bosses and governments, and just pissing away 20, 40 years of their life in misery, swimming upstream, never getting anywhere, and not experiencing any happiness. I mean, half the country is on antidepressants. Like, why? Now all of a sudden everybody just stopped producing endorphins? What? No, it's because nobody likes their life. They don't experience happiness on a regular basis. So of course they're depressed. So start doing things to experience happiness. Maybe it is just like staying at your job or going to a different place that treats you a little better. And having a little bit more vacation time. Maybe that's it. Maybe you just change jobs just so you can get some more vacation time, or your hours, like you go in a little earlier, or you work from home 2 days. It doesn't matter. Whatever you can do to just loosen this pressure that's on you, so you can just go have some fun, so you can take your kid to the park, so you can sit on a bench and stare at a freaking bird for 15 minutes. I don't care. Just enjoy your life. That's the whole point of it. Take your life back and enjoy it in whatever way suits you. They can't control you. This societal structure that's in place, the hippies knocked all that down. They blew holes in it back 40 years ago, man. They showed us. They shook it to its core. They showed us all the problems with the government and corporate America and organized religion. Like all that stuff, they shook it. So let's take the work that they did back then and learn from it and go, yeah, okay, we don't have to live by societal standards. We should follow our hearts a little bit more. This is my life. I should live it my way, right? That's what I want you guys to do. So good luck. I hope this helps. Of course, reach out if you need me. I've lived this way, maybe dysfunctionally, but free when I was younger. And I've lived this way functionally and free when I was older. But the common denominator is I lived free since I was about 13, 14 years old, all the way up to I'm almost 55, I think. So I've got a lot of experience at this, and there's nothing special about me. You can do it too. It's just I made the decision, and that's all it is. You can make the decision. So let me know if I can help. Thank you guys for listening. I will talk with you soon.
Looking for more? Check out over 200 episodes of Life Lessons and Laughter, or click the link in the description of this episode to connect with Glenn directly.